Freedom Ring this afternoon at 2 with Sean Hannity, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. And, the Department of Justice Inspector General report really puts Democrats in a trick bag on so many levels, one of which is I think they don't know whether they're supposed to like Jim Comey or not anymore.
Right. Nobody knows.
He's Mueller's star witness, ostensibly, in the obstruction case they're trying to conjure up against President Trump. But he didn't fare too well in that Inspector General report, nor did some of his underlings like Page and Strzok and 5 unnamed agents. Department of Justice doesn't fare particularly well either, going back to the days when Loretta Lynch was the Attorney General. And this has President Trump and House Republicans on offense. Over the weekend, both Trey Gowdy, chairman of the House Oversight, and Devin Nunes, chairman of the House Intel Committee, recounted a meeting that occurred on Friday evening, led by Speaker Ryan, that included Christopher Wray, FBI director, representatives from DOJ, including Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, where they basically said, look, those subpoenas that have been pending for more than a year, you're going to produce those documents. You're going to produce the documents we've requested this week, or we're going to take
action on the floor.
Yeah, the disciplinary action that we have available to us, including but not limited to impeachment. Here's Trey Gowdy laying it out with Chris Wallace on Fox.
We had a meeting Friday night under the heading of Minor Miracles. You had members of the House working on a Friday night. Paul Ryan led this meeting. You had Devin Nunes, Bob Goodlatte, myself, and everyone you can think of from the FBI and the DOJ. And we went item by item on both of those outstanding subpoenas. We either have compliance, we have partial compliance, or we have non-compliance. And Paul made it very clear. There's going to be action on the floor of the House this week if the FBI and DOJ do not comply with our subpoena request. So Rod Rosenstein, Chris Wray, you were in the meeting. You understood him just as clearly as I did. We're going to get compliance, or the House of Representatives is going to use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain. Part of that depends upon what you view the Mueller probe as. Now, you mentioned collusion. The only person in the universe who claims to have evidence of collusion is Adam Schiff. And unlike any other secret he's ever had, he's actually kept this one. He's never told anyone what evidence he has. So there's no evidence of collusion. Obstruction of justice, Chris, good luck having your star witness being Jim Comey in any prosecution, from shoplifting to obstruction of justice. Good luck if that's your star witness. For me, the Mueller probe is about what Russia did in 2016 and who, if anyone, they did it with.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by New York Times bestselling author of books on a range of topics, including the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA. Most recent offering, the Trump White House, an exclusive access he got with President Trump that informs his book. He is Ronald Kessler. Ronald, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Always great to be with you.
So what about the fallout from that Inspector General report and some seems renewed vigor coming from more than just Devin Nunes after that report?
Well, I think they are making progress on getting additional documents out of the FBI. It is, very sensitive when you're talking about an ongoing investigation. If you're talking about a source, whose life could be in danger if his identity were revealed, I think that's what part of this is about. The report itself directed the greatest criticism towards Comey, as you indicated, and in fact, towards the fact that he gave the public statements about Hillary, which actually hurt Hillary as opposed to Trump. Also, it gives Trump ammunition because of the Peter Strzok messages that will stop Trump. But it also says that Strzok said in another message he didn't want to work on the Mueller investigation because he didn't think there was much there. And also that both he and Lisa Page, his lover, were for more aggressive actions in some cases, using more use of subpoenas. So there's quite a jumble of information there. It really pertains to the actions of about a dozen FBI employees, including the director and the deputy director. So it's not a systemic problem within the FBI.
But why would the IG report say that he's not politically biased? When clearly, if you read the report, it sounds like there's some biased behavior going on.
Well, there's clearly he had bias in terms of his personal opinions, but they couldn't identify any decision that resulted from that. In fact, as I mentioned, in some cases he was for more aggressive actions against Hillary. So it's just not, it's not a black and white situation.
Right. I mean, he says, Horowitz says he couldn't prove it, but he talks about examples of what appear to be bias throughout, and they're obvious and numerous. So, that spin from the left, it just isn't going to hold water, I don't think. One of the questions that comes out of this, though, because the report was so harmful to the FBI's credibility and Department of Justice to a lesser extent, is does this now give Trump the leverage and perhaps the inclination to shut down Mueller?
No, Trump is going to use whatever he can to go after the FBI and undercut his credibility as far as the Mueller probe goes. But there's no way he's going to fire Mueller. He's a lot of his tweeting and statements are to whip up his base. I've known him for 2 decades, and in my book I go into the fact that he's very different when you actually know him as opposed to his public caricature. And that other Donald Trump is very thoughtful, doesn't make rash decisions. Even the decision to fire Comey, which led to the appointment of Mueller, was taken only after Sessions and Rosenstein said they have no confidence in Comey because of his decision to hold a press conference about Hillary and make the decision on his own not to indict her. So it was not a rash decision, although not very well timed. In my book, The Trump White House, I actually point out that when Trump said he fired Comey and he thought about the Russia investigation, he went on to make it clear that he didn't mean that he fired him over the Russia investigation. In fact, quite the opposite. In the next few paragraphs, which of course the media have ignored, he said that he recognized that by firing Comey, it could actually prolong the FBI investigation. He wasn't trying to get rid of the investigation at all. But again, the media, love to ignore the other side.
Well, I want to know why FBI agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, how are they still working at the FBI, and why haven't they been fired?
Strzok is.
Strzok, yeah. Lisa Page has left. Oh, I'm quite sure Strzok will be fired, but I think they probably were waiting until the report came out, and there are various procedures internally when it comes to firing someone. But there's no question he's going to be gone. No question.
Yeah, and his attorney this morning has come forward saying that they'll testify before Congress.
Yeah,
that should be fun.
Yeah.
Is from your relationship with Trump and your discussions with him, I don't know exactly when all these discussions happen, but do you think that Trump has confidence in Christopher Wray? That's his appointee at FBI. Do you think he has confidence that Christopher Wray can restore the credibility of the FBI and essentially sweep out those FBI agents who act more like political operatives?
Yes, I think he has not criticized Wray at all. He is his appointee, as you say. If you look at Trump's appointments, they're incredible, and that's one example. He's a very reasonable, judicious kind of guy, and is doing a good job at the FBI. There haven't been any problems under him, since he took over. So that's certainly a good sign. The report also said that contrary to a lot of the criticism of the FBI, including by some former agents, the investigation did use a grand jury, did issue 56 subpoenas. It didn't put people under oath because the FBI never does that because there's no need to. There's a law that prohibits lying to the FBI, and that's much more easily used in a prosecution. So, it put to rest some of the myths And I think it's a very truthful report.
Well, yeah, I don't think it puts to rest a lot of the questions about the Hillary Clinton investigation and lack of prosecution. I don't think it put that to rest, and I don't think it inspired confidence in the senior leadership of the FBI. People can distinguish between an agency that big at the rank and file level as compared to the senior leadership level. But for me, it was just another stinging indictment of the same cast of characters we've been talking about for a year, starting with Comey.
Yeah, no question. And since Comey came out with his book, I mean, he's turned out to be a total travesty. He said it was possible that Trump was compromised by the Russians. Well, what an incredible thing to say.
Yeah.
It's possible that the neighbor down the street murdered someone. Well, and when he was asked by Jake Tapper, well, why do you say that? He said, well, Trump keeps saying that he's innocent. Can you imagine if a juror in a murder trial said, I voted to convict him because he kept saying he's innocent? and he also said he hasn't criticized Putin, which actually was not true. And more recently, he's criticized him more. But beyond that, Trump has taken about 12 different actions as opposed to words that are anti-Putin, including sanctions. So Comey, clearly has become a total, well, let's say, just has lost his credibility if he had any to begin with.
He is Ron Kessler, New York Times bestselling author of many books, Secret Service, FBI, CIA, The Topics. The latest, The Trump White House. He gets unique access to President Trump that informs his book, so you want to pick that up. Ron, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.